19th century we were colonised. The British, European empires colonised the world, Indigenous peoples. 20th century, I think they're starting to understand this, is that the rest of the world decolonised. Now, the 21st century is going to be about peoples, First Nation peoples, indigenising Western institutions to represent their own identities. And it's going to be more than just putting a carving over the hospital entryway. It'll be about incorporating New Zealand values which are really about equity and fairness, aren't they? With Māori values of their relationships to the land and caring for people.
Is the draft submission on the Canterbury Regional Council Ngai Tahu Representation Bill. This is a very short one. I did want to add a copy of the letter that we sent to ECAN last year when they consulted us on the bill. And so if that could just be approved, the draft council submission on the Canterbury Regional Council Ngāi Tahu Representation Bill, including the correspondence that we had with ECAN last year in support. And I'll move that. Do I have a seconder for that? Andrew? Any discussion? I'll put the motion. Oh.
Yeah, not to drag it on, but I won't be supporting it. I just fundamentally believe that one person, one vote. And I think that I still fundamentally, in terms of democracy, that people sitting on either councils or Environment Canterbury should be elected. I know that there'll be disagreement on that, completely respect it, but just sort of being true to myself, I can't support it.
I'll quickly respond, which is essentially that when the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Act was passed in 2011 after the earthquakes, Ngāi Tahu was named as a statutory partner, and we could all see the value of having Ngāi Tahu directly represented in terms of all of the strategic relationships that it established. When Environment Canterbury was disestablished as a function of central government, replacing them with commissioners, essentially they included Ngāi Tahu representation, and that was confirmed when it was a joint elected and appointed membership. And this is simply reinstating a really good process that was acknowledged by, cross-party really, over two sets of issues. So I'm very much in favour of this.
Okay, it's fine. So we're going to start with Julia Whaiputi, our first panellist for the evening. And so, kia ora e kare. My quick fire question for you tonight is, what does constitutional transformation look like in Aotearoa?
What does constitutional transformation therefore look like for me in 1 minute? I think that there are some examples of where it has looked good, and it's happened by stealth. And it's happened by stealth because I think our colonial construct and history of New Zealand, which is still breathing today, is built off it's built off white supremacy and racism, and about the true belief that power shouldn't be applied equally. So now, in order to address that, we've seen some of that stuff happen by stealth post Christchurch earthquake. Right now, you've got Ngāi Tahu, the iwi that's in Christchurch, and the Council of Christchurch with equal powers and decision making in anything that affects Christchurch. That's a powerful thing. We've got our Wanganui River has legal identity, and the power there sits with the iwi and hapu there to make decisions with the Crown. You've got in Tūhoe, where Matua's from, in the Urewera, the forest, national forest, having equal powers between Tūhoe and the state. Those are powerful examples of things that are happening where it's equal constitutional power. And I think now is the time, and these are the arts Maire and Kitty we're having, now is the time where actually we should be having quite mature conversations about this, and that we could see that implemented. There's probably more things to say, but in order for that to happen, New Zealand becoming a republic, and that we consider a coded constitution, a written constitution with higher powers, of which Te Tiriti is at the top of that. Kia ora.
Ooh, that was bloody, bro.
We are so proud to be a city of love and social change.
It's one of the many elements of leadership that you outline in the book, and I could go into them more deeply, but I want to talk about a couple of things I think people are very interested in your opinion on. Gosh, it's awful to skim over the earthquakes this way, and the role again that Ngai tahu played in them, in the recovery, but also in reaching out to people straight away, finding out where people were. But one of the things to emerge from that dreadful event was a far stronger partnership between Ngai tahu and this Christchurch City Council, and actually between tangata tiriti and tangata whenua.
Yes.
And there was a survey done actually talking about how people wanted Christchurch and Canterbury rebuilt out of this, and it was a very high figure. I think it was 2/3, 70% said we want a stronger partnership with peoples, want everything that is rebuilt to reflect the peoples, two peoples, not one. And can you speak to this concept that's emerging of genuine partnership? Can you start first with that, and then we'll talk more. We'll get into the health area that I want to finish with, Mark. What are you seeing happening that is positive, and what are you seeing happening that is falling short?
Well, I'll go back to where I think the change come.